What's wrong with it?
And we're live.
I'm ready. Let's do this shit.
Well, I'm Spanny Brat.
Tiffany Wise.
Amber Dial.
How's everybody doing today?
And drinking coffee.
I'll second that.
Is everybody good?
You can.
Hanging in there.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm hanging in there. Spanny, I hear the weather's cold over there. I'm sorry.
It's only -9. Yesterday was -31 when I woke up, so it's improvement. Okay.
Can you
I don't know
freeze
how-
a bowl of noodles? Have you tried that yet?
I've lived in Alaska since I was like 1.5. I think we've pretty much tried everything.
Oh my.
Sorry.
All right. So is your friend getting on, Spanny? Is she still in the waiting room?
I don't think she's where she can yet. I just looked.
Well, that's cool. I just want to show 2 books. And I know that there's not a lot of people on right now. And I've done these books before. Hi, Mama. Hi, AJ. Hi, Ruru. So I think everybody needs to get this book. Can everybody see it? Am I holding it right?
Yep.
Okay. This book has a lot of cases in it. This is a very good book. And Spanny, you already know I endorsed this one.
Yep.
I love these books. In anything constitutional or any Bill of Rights, any of those, I think people should have and keep on hand because there's cases in here and it gives you the real history of what your rights are. I really, really endorse these books. And that's what I do. I read a lot. So Google behind the Bill of Rights. Actually, hold on. I'll tell you what website to go to.
Come on.
I can't read. It's nccs.net. Has behind the Bill of Rights and common law court handbook can be found on Amazon. So what's been going on? Everybody froze?
No, I had myself muted for a minute when my dogs were whining. So everybody wonders what's going on. I did leave Fighter Cries, and we started our own thing. So we are Wicked Warriors Families now. And we are going to be getting a grant, and we're going to go nonprofit with it so we can help a lot more people. Alex was just holding me back. He kept promising things that weren't happening. So it was time for me to move on.
So explain what your nonprofit is. Have you
I'm
picked a
basically
name?
doing what we Our name is going to be Wicked Warriors Families, and it is going to be with Tiffany, Amber, and a couple other people, which I'll introduce when the time's right. We're all going to be working together. Everybody loves it when I work with Tiffany anyway, so. But yes, we are officially a family, and we are going to be doing a lot of good things. I'm not going to mention my big project on live yet because that's something that's going to happen when it's up there. So, but yeah, I'm happy. And like I said, it just needed to move on because Alex was holding me back.
Well, when people hold you back too, I think it's out of fear a lot of times, right? Because I've learned that when people try and hold you down, they're worried that you're going to do better than them anyway. And I think that's what happened.
Yep. and he is looking around for a replacement, but I wish him luck.
Oh, and I have to say this. I had a customer come to my house the other day because that's where I work. And he goes, oh my, he saw our show. He was like, Tiffany, I didn't know that girl was your twin because you always say I'm the evil twin, and I am.
Yeah.
I was like, we're not sisters. He was like, well, God, you two look alike. I said, I'm going to have to tell her.
Yep.
Ugh.
Well, Don used to work, goof around saying that we were twins anyway, so I just went with it.
That's right. She's the good one, though. Spanny's the good twin.
At least you're being honest.
Oh, I know who I am.
She officially
I can't
got
deny
named
it.
my evil twin when I had to wake her up and explain to her about Roe versus Wade getting overturned. I woke her up to that.
I said, what? She said, yeah, turn the news on. I said, are you kidding me? She said, Tiffany, turn the news on. I was pissed.
She was. You should have heard her. It was very colorful.
I can only imagine. Like that song, I can only imagine. Why did that pop into my head?
Yeah, no, it was literally one of those. Okay, then. Yeah, I have to wake her up to this one.
Yeah, I remember that day.
Yeah, and I was like, yep, you're the evil twin.
Yep.
I don't even want to. I'm
I'm a
still
good person
waking up.
now. I'm a good person.
You
Unless you're
are.
a CPS worker. And then, that just sends a wild hair right up my ass. And
Or
I
a
just can't
corrupt
handle it.
judge, or a corrupt attorney, or a corrupt cop.
Yeah, I can't deal with it.
Mm-mm.
It strikes a nerve that, I don't know. I can't explain it. I just know when I see them, I get so, I can't even explain how I get. It's ridiculous. But
Yeah,
it is
and,
what it is.
We are answering questions today, guys. So if you have a question, just put it in chat.
I'm still being watched by the cat.
Cats do that.
No, it's like sitting in the chair next to me, like staring at me.
Mine's behind me on her princess pad. Yeah, she has her own princess pad. Oh, I just realized everybody can see the Josh still.
Whatever.
But yeah, she has her own princess pad.
So what have you guys been up to this week?
You know,
I haven't
leaving
been
fighter
feeling good.
cries. Leaving fighter cries, putting up the Wicked Warriors families group. Oh, and I am looking for somebody that can do websites. So let me know.
I think when I did mine originally, like years ago, I ended up going through WordPress.
Well, WordPress is like the place that you can start it, but you have to have like a server program like GoDaddy or something. And GoDaddy, I don't really like GoDaddy. There's a lot of complications that come with that website server, so we'd have to find something else. Oh, there's
Somebody
my
just
Kelsey.
said, I got
Here we
you.
Yep, that's my Kelsey.
Okay, well, I guess she can do the website.
Perfect.
Does anybody want to come on?
I don't know, Kelsey, are you alive enough to come on the show?
Alive.
All right, let me send you the link.
I see
she's
Josh
only
in the
an hour
background
difference
with the sunglasses.
Yeah. Reminds me of that song, I Wear My Sunglasses at Night.
Daylight.
Okay, so those are Bluetooth
Hold on.
ones. So he's probably listening to music or.
Oh,
No.
All right, let me grab Kelsey. I know you're here. You just messaged me. There you are.
I do have a friend here that can probably sit in.
No, I'm gonna go with
Oh.
Mary's favorite book.
Hold on.
Mama, your name is spelled wrong. I'm talking to my daughter.
Yeah, I noticed her. I
Yeah,
figured
right?
one of the
I'm like-
grandkids. Yeah, I figured one of the
Alright, I
grandkids
have-
fixed her name.
I have one of the families that we've been helping out, which is Families United, that's coming up to kind of deal with the corrupt judges and attorneys.
Yes.
And so she's new. Her name is Alicia. She's been taken in by all of us. She had her fiance falsely imprisoned. So she wants to sit in. She's a part of the family. She's learning, just got accepted into Liberty for criminal justice, wants to work with all of us. So I think it's pretty cool to see when you experience this stuff yourself, where you find like your driving purpose. Like I said, when we all first met, I thought it would be cool to be an attorney, but now I'm like, no, thank you. You know, like you find your purpose in this. So she's learning. It's new for her. She doesn't, this is like her first time on camera, minus the podcast she was in. So she'll kind of like go in and out. She's finding her inner confidence, her inner warrior. So we're getting there. I love the
Well,
crap out of
hello.
her and her kids.
I
So-
love you too.
So I'm going to turn you guys facing Josh for a minute because I got to switch shirts because this one is just way too
Okay,
hot for
are you
this
ready
room
to-
right now.
That's fine.
Are you sure?
Where'd she go?
She went to go get food.
And Sade, I see what you said. That's my daughter, Sade.
Why are we looking at Josh?
Because she had to change her shirt, huh?
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Doing all right, hanging in there.
What's going on?
Well, they're trying to terminate me already, so I'm just still doing everything they tell me to do.
So
Whoa.
they tried terminating her rights early. Her case is really screwed up, and it shouldn't be the way it is.
What state?
They did California.
Oh,
The communist state. Got it.
Where in California?
San Bernardino County.
but go ahead, Spaghetti.
Yes.
So yeah, I warned her already that they're probably going to go ahead and terminate her rights fully, and then I will go through the Supreme Court like I usually do and get the kid back. It's just going to take a little bit. I told her it's not the end; it's just an intermission, basically.
Right. Well, that's Spadey's field right there.
I know.
That's all Spadey right there. Because I can't do that. I'm gonna tell you right now, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm the best
I'm
one when
sorry.
it comes to termination of rights.
Yeah, they gave me no reunification services, but I'm still doing my classes. I'm still drug testing, which I shouldn't even be doing that, but I just don't want no problems with them.
Did you sign
Amber,
a
you do
safety
realize
plan?
you're on mute.
Okay.
And
that's their
explain to
problem.
her what they're
I
doing.
also have somebody else, and we're swapping. He's actually my how do you?
using the computer?
Because I'm technically challenged. He is the press person for Families United. He has his press pass, so it's all new for him too. This is Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Wow.
Kelsey, explain to them a little
Actually,
bit
you know
about
what?
the
Hold
whole.
on. Hang on. Hold the phone.
Yeah,
about the
but
whole,
talk into your mic because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
baby daddy issues.
Oh, so what they did is they did a paternity test, and they said that pretty much that my baby's dad isn't the father, which is nonsense because there's no way he's not the father. Come to find out that foster parent never even took him to do the swab test, my son. So who are they comparing these results to? There's been no documentation in the mail. There's been nothing on paper. it's just the social worker called me and told me that he wasn't the father, and like that's confidentiality. I thought, so how are they calling me with those results?
Wait a minute. I have to get
Tiffy
my
said
thoughts
hers now.
together here. So you're telling me that the father of your child, you know, is the child is, you know who the child's father is, and they
Yes.
supposedly did a DNA test and said he wasn't the father?
Yes.
Okay.
And they had him plead no contest in court, so now he's off the case.
Okay, so what should have happened is if, quote unquote, he's not the father. Now, I don't know. But what I
Okay.
do know is that they have to involve both biological parents. I'm not saying that he's not the father, okay? What I'm saying is you should have said, well, that it's your job to find the other father because he is included in this case.
They haven't even asked if there's another, if who the other father is. There's not.
I don't
one.
believe
It's
they did the
him.
test.
They know. Excuse me?
I don't believe they did the test, but I'm going to tell you why. Most children that are taken, they eliminate the men very quickly because they are the threat. Okay, there was a CPS worker in
Yes.
Illinois that was killed by a father. So they eliminate
Yes.
whoever the threat is, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's just men because they think I'm a threat too. That is crazy.
Yeah. So they so that ended pretty much my relationship. I don't have time to fight with him or argue with him or try to get him to understand and believe how grimy these people are, because I've got to focus on my son.
Okay.
With that being
So
said,
I'm just going to, I don't mean to cut you off. So let me just put this out here. CPS's main job is to divide and conquer. They will lie to you. They will turn family members against you. They will turn friends. They will turn spouses. They will try to break up marriages. So I'm sorry that that happened to you. And maybe you should send him a copy of this live that we're doing, because I'm telling you, they eliminated him for a reason.
I've
Go
also
ahead.
learned that they like
he
to.
had a bigger chance of getting.
I couldn't hear her,
They
Spanny.
also, they also
Go ahead.
they alienate the mothers quite quickly, and they tell you you're not allowed to have a boyfriend, you're not allowed to have relations with a lot of your family members. You get alienated. You have to do what they say and only what they say, or you're screwed. They even try to go as far as tell you who your friends can be or can't be. They tell you where you can or can't work. I've had that happen. One of my caseworkers got me fired from a job when I was dealing with CPS, and then that same caseworker actually made it to where I couldn't live in like 5 different places. I was trying to get a different place to live. They called up the landlord and literally told the landlord, "Oh, well, she has an OCS case, and I don't think it'd be right for her to live there."
Wow.
That's how low they will go.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I grew up in the system. I emancipated out, so I know very well how they are and the way they do things, and that's a big reason why I stayed on their radar, I guess.
Well, any child that was placed into foster care, my own daughter's on here. She'll tell you, you all are targeted. You're targeted. Your name is already in the system. They just wait for you to reproduce, and then they come after you.
I was never
Pretty
in
much is
foster
what-
care,
that's
but
what it's happening.
I got fired from my job as well. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucks, doesn't it?
And
But-
Charnay was on her job for 17 years. They also contacted her landlord. Yes.
Yep.
I got her file. It's
Horrible.
this thick.
Yeah.
Mine's
They think
just
that
about
they
that
own
thick,
you.
too. Yeah.
But
They
no, when I was a kid, we got removed from my mother and placed with our fathers, and my brother and I had two separate fathers. His was in Florida.
okay.
Mine was up here. So we got completely separated, but we were never in foster care. But because we
But
had
you
an-
all were
an
still
old-
targeted.
yeah, because we had an old OCS case. All of my brother's kids have been removed from him, but that's kind of his own doing because with everything that went on when we were little and on top of my grandparents basically raised my brother. And when they passed away, it just went south. And then he had his 4-month-old die in front of him, and that just killed him. And so he's a heroin addict now. I don't know if he's dead or alive at this point.
He's alive.
Oh, you actually ran into him?
No, but I was able to pass on that message you wanted.
All right, thank you.
I don't know when it'll get to him, but it's working on it.
But yeah, so it's just one messed up thing after another with him because he doesn't know how to handle all that grief and all the anger and
Just
stuff.
say he's on a bender.
Well, as you know, Spanny, that's their main goal is to destroy your whole life, right? They will say you're unstable, you're too emotional, you can't discipline your kids, you don't know how to discipline your kids. They come up with stuff, right? This is like we explained last time. Their scenario has to fit their scenario. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. That's the only way they
Yeah.
get federal funding. Yes, my daughter's right. They love creating generational
Chaos.
curses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want
So
you to
I
hang in
agree with
there.
that.
Don't give up. Don't give up, especially with Spanny, because I'm going to tell you,
It's not. Yeah. If I fold, who
Yeah.
saves my son? So there's no folding here. No, I'm not giving up.
and don't
think that needs
listen.
to-
Don't let them break you. Okay.
Hmm?
And that's what they're trying to do too. Okay.
Oh.
Some points my daughter would call me and be like, "Oh, I think I'm going to sign a safety plan." Absolutely not. You better not sign a safety plan. Do not let them break you.
Don't.
And she got
You're
through
back,
it.
Amber.
We won. We won in court and we won administratively because they took their anger out on my daughter because they couldn't touch me. But
Your
she
safety
won.
plan should be fair
That makes-
lesson.
Go ahead.
I mean, they've been trying to break me for years. 9 years ago, I had, and that's why I've done this time. Because of 9 years ago, I didn't reunify with my 4 older kids. They said that I didn't do my parenting, my outpatient classes, but I did all of it. And so, like, I just agreed with their grandmother to stop fighting. That way, they can be out of the system. I didn't sign my rights away. I just stopped fighting. And then, however, I had my son, and that's when their only reason for taking him is because 9 years ago I didn't reunify with my older kids.
That wasn't even the same case. They had no business being in it.
That's what I thought too.
No, that's the law. It has to be on the specific child.
No, so I didn't bring my son to their office because after they cleared me to take him home from the hospital, they're mad because it took them 2 years to find me when I wasn't hiding anywhere. But now it's all about a power trip and proving a point. So they got my
So
baby.
what they're doing is they're punishing you. That's sad. Girl, you couldn't be my daughter. You couldn't be my daughter because they would hate me worse than you. Trust and believe that.
So
My mom-
Tiffany's saying
I
that
don't
she
have
wants to
parents.
take a trip to California.
I don't get on airplanes.
I'll drive
You
with
can
you.
drive there.
They got you.
have him named after
You can
Javier
even take a train there. It's not like
Sorry,
Alaska.
name. Dyke.
It's California. It's a toilet bowl without a handle.
He said it the best. 3 days drive. Thanks, Sade. You gonna watch the other two with your two? So you can answer that in the live too.
Well, she's in Virginia. Kelsey's in California.
And that's a 3-day drive.
Yes, for people that don't speed.
Most places are 75.
Funny,
down
ha
there.
ha ha.
I would be doing.
What
the
I
speed
would do if I were you is I would find a delegate in my area and tell them what's going on, because they can talk for you. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're supposed to be doing. That's why we put these people in these chairs, and they forget that shit when they get in those chairs. What'd she say?
He won't submit none of my paperwork. He won't submit any of my evidence, any of my paperwork. I have the worker lying under the penalty of perjury and physical proof, and they won't submit it to the courts. Nothing.
What do you
Okay.
guys
They don't work for you.
the SF5 form that was added to Wicked Warriors? Has she tried that yet?
No,
No, I don't think she's seen all that. I just put it up last night.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, your attorney, his first client is the state, okay? So he's not going to
He's
do
not gonna
shit for you. You know how you get your paperwork in?
Mhm.
You file it yourself.
I can do that.
Yes, the Constitution says it's the right of the people to access the court.
I have a question with
So
that.
do I submit?
Hold on, Amber. If they won't take it, you take your ass home, you put stamps on it, and you mail it to their ass, because then they have no choice but to accept it.
You can also digitally do it, which makes it even harder for them to reject it.
You can do what? I couldn't hear him, Amber.
You can electronically enter it, which makes it even harder. Once you get into their system, you just punch it in, you can digitally sign it, and they're screwed because then it's got a computer trail.
See,
Okay,
my
I can get
issue
into
is
this.
I did that, and they tried to sanction me for that.
They
And
can't
they wouldn't
sanction
remove the
you.
attorney. I know.
Look, you see this book right here? Hold on, because my camera's a little crooked. You see this book?
Mhm.
Go to Amazon. It's $6 or $7. This has everything you need to know. This book was just released in 2023. Buy this book. This talks about clerks of the court, judges, taxes. It talks about everything. 1983 case. It talks about everything. The problem is your lawyer's not going to do anything. Period. Point blank. Do it yourself.
I've even tried to fire him.
You can fire him.
Well, it didn't work. I told him, I said, my opinion.
I couldn't hear her. Say it again.
He's a
Is
public
it a
pretender.
paid attorney or a
He's a
public
public-
defender?
Public defender.
Public pretender.
Yeah, those were pretender things.
Listen to me. Look up the state actor doctrine. Lawyers, judge, anybody who works for the state, they're all state actors. You can fire your lawyer.
So
In fact,
I've come
when we get
across,
off here,
What,
you go find the case where the Supreme Court ruled that they cannot push a lawyer on you.
yep.
I want to go to Supreme Court. That's what I want, because in these North District courts, I'm not going to get anywhere.
That's usually what I say is I tell everybody to go up to Supreme Court. But usually I have to wait until they've had a termination case first. But you don't
Okay.
have to. You just have to have 5 major errors in that court case, which you do.
See,
Yeah, they have him aged at a 5-year-old, and we're talking about the same child. They have him named as Anakin Javier. His name is Anakin Dykes. There's just so many things that, like, how many set of eyes are supposed to be on those court reports, because they're not adding up. Like, they have him a 5-year-old kid. My son is 2. He'll be 3 next month. He's not 5. He's not 6. His name's not Anakin Javier either. So.
It's Shadra Fana. I know I butchered your name. I apologize. The biggest problem we have is that we are using attorneys. All attorneys have one, it's an economy. It doesn't matter if they are public defenders or private. All right, you look here in Texas, your average attorney doing, say, bankruptcies or similar things like that, they get paid $80 an hour. Family court attorneys get paid $350 to $450 an hour. What I just dealt with in Kyle's case was a really good attorney who does awesome videos. She nailed it in the courtroom, despite the corruption of the judge and all the other shenanigans that took place. But once we got out into the hallway, well, but. And the minute an individual says but, that's when you need to be done with them. I go scorched earth. You can absolutely file a motion to remove your attorney from the case for failure to represent, and then you can file a motion to entry, and you can actually start doing all of your own motions. Most people know how to do that. Most people can help with that. What we're building in our website is where people are going to be able to literally say, okay, this happened to me. Click this, and it's going to transfer all the case law over with a box above it where you type your story. People can do this. I have nothing more than a high school degree, but I just overrode a family court judge after she tried to throw me out as a member of the press. I went to the administration. The administration I had words with them. They walked in.
That's awesome.
They had a 10-minute long conversation. They walked me back in against her will. And then she threatened me not once, but twice during the rest of that court hearing. So as a member of the press, I'm going after her ass. You don't talk to me like that. I'm not your friend. I'm not your family. I'm not your son. I'm not your husband. You can eat a bag of dicks.
See why I have him?
They have, huh?
I'm sorry that broke up.
The CPS up here, they have children sleeping overnight up at their office.
Where are you?
My son was one.
Oh, California is just human
California.
trafficking central.
Yep.
I mean, but who calls CPS on them? Is that neglect? There's no beds in there. That's not appropriate for a child.
Oh,
Nope, it's
because
not.
they don't have enough budget money, and they need to have a larger budget for next year so that they can, build the concentration camps they need to house all these kids. If all these
So they
people
keep
did their
them at
job, if attorneys and judges did their job properly, family court would be empty. And that's why they can't tolerate this, because the minute family court's empty, all of their jobs are on the line. CPS could be deleted today, and it's not even needed. You have law enforcement, you have social workers, you have civil laws, you have federal laws. There's enough on the books that CPS right now is a self-serving entity. And I've got firsthand experience with that.
Yeah.
I like him.
I just feel bad.
I definitely like him. He needs to come on our show more often, or every time we do one. But
Talk about
also,
He's one of the people that is
I saw him on another interview with somebody else.
with George Saldana
I think
Or Tanawa.
so.
or Tanawa.
Yeah. The Tanawa was with him on another show.
Yep.
You guys
Right.
Let me see.
I was wondering how to get in touch with him. But listen, the federal government has now said that CPS workers, foster care workers, pretty much the state too, can no longer use TANF money to do investigations. Okay, this is a federal law. This isn't no state bullshit. This is what the federal government has said. And if they find out that the states are using this money against what they said, they will lose their federal grants. So just know that too, because all the money that they're using on your case is federal money.
Yeah. I mean, they could use that money to help families instead of
Destroying them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, right, that I'm trying to change, because why would you? I know why. It's about the money. Instead of paying a foster parent who is nobody, because kinship makes no money, right? Instead of ripping families apart and putting these people with strangers, that brings trauma to both family and children. These kids are going to have a lifetime of whatever. Keep that money in the family. Help the family with housing, food stamp, whatever they need. Keep the family together.
So I think they should go to mediation before they remove a child.
Are you still in the state courts?
Yes. I have court again on May 8th.
Yeah, she's still in family court.
Why haven't you petitioned to move your case to a federal courthouse?
Yep. That's what I would do. I would remove it.
Have you done a federal removal?
I'm gonna do that today. I'm gonna look up those documents and do it today.
We actually had a federal removal. It was accepted, which is strange because paid attorneys, they only have a 3% success rate. But they kicked it back, and that's normal. Normally, they kick it back 3 times. The federal removal is typically only 3 to 4 pages, and inside that, you cite the law where it says specifically that if they have that, they need to accept this, and if they don't, they have to ask you questions. In my case, they didn't ask any questions. They just kicked it back and said, "Meh," because it's Rhode Island. Rhode Island's just a mini Cali. So when they did that, I filed my appeal. I gave them notice and filed the appeal properly. The appellate court did the same thing. They went meh because in Rhode Island, they're all in bed. So now what I've done is I've exhausted family court. I've exhausted federal removal. I've exhausted appellate court. Now I'm actually in the Supreme Court of Rhode Island. And when I exhaust that, it gives me the opportunity to actually start traveling through the Supreme Court system, through the 3rd, 7th, 11th, 13th district, all the way up to the very top. And they're pretty pissed about all of that.
Well, that's
Well,
because
yeah,
they
they're
don't want
gonna-
people to know. They don't want people to have this information.
No. Nope. We're just cattle. CPS is basically like here in Texas. I found out through Jeff Younger that last year, Texas through Title 4D made $500 million. All of that money is directly tied to all of the judges' retirements here in Texas. So they have a financial incentive. One of my goals is to teach people about this and how to do it themselves as much as possible, because one way to fix this is to change the financial incentive. If suddenly 25, 30% of the population says no more attorneys because you're all part of the problem, what are they going to do? Those attorneys are going to have one of 2 options. They're either going to starve to death and die and their business will fail, or they'll start doing their fucking job. And that's it.
Mhm.
They don't want to have to do that, especially in a state like Rhode Island. Rhode Island's only 51 minutes long. If you piss off one judge, you're pissing off all of them, and they will destroy your practice. I spoke with a civil rights attorney in Massachusetts who specifically had this happen to him while he was defending a client in Rhode Island. Judge Shawcross attempted to destroy him. Luckily, because his main practice was in Mass, and Mass is a little more based than Rhode Island is, and by a little, I mean a lot, they weren't able to destroy him, but now he doesn't really go into Rhode Island to do anything because he's been blackballed.
Okay. So a lot of these attorneys don't want to help because they'll get stripped of their license, I'm assuming.
Well, what it is they don't want to help. Okay, so you got 3 types of evil. There is abject evil, where they're just sociopaths. They do bad things, makes them laugh. Then there's malicious evil. And that's where you see an individual, like what happened in Kyle's case, where the judge was fighting with him on Facebook. She took a motion out of order. And even though my personal take with my experience was she should have looked at both parties and been like, get the fuck out of my courtroom, your children. She threw the maximum possible sentence at him as a form of punishment. That is malicious evil. All right. When somebody makes false allegations, like one person that I'm working with out of Waco here, where his mother-in-law accused him of physical abuse in Nevada, and it didn't go anywhere. She then upped it to sexual abuse. And of course, they had to come in and immediately take the kids. That's malicious evil. And then you have the third one, which is what most people are suffering from right now. It's called the banality of evil. It's when you're afraid to speak out because you don't want to lose your job. It's afraid to speak out because you don't want to make waves because you might get blackballed. It's that kind of fear. And that's why we have to take over, because we have gone through hell and we're not afraid. All right. I walked into that courtroom after that judge threw me out and threatened me. And I smiled at her and said, thank you, Your Honor. Because I don't fucking care. They've already done the worst possible thing to me. I've lost my daughter, and that's it. Now they've made an enemy that they have to kill. That's it. I will die on that hill. And believe it or not, we're not alone. This is the other thing family court and these lawyers have done. They make you think that you're alone, that you should be ashamed, that you shouldn't talk about this. I went against the grain on an unprecedented level. I created a website for my daughter, and I published everything: medical documents, orders, recordings of the courtroom, recordings of phone calls. And now I gave them the chance to do the right thing. They're about to get fucked harder than anybody, a whore on payday. All right. Because what's going to happen is I'm now uploading for 2023 and 2024 because in my case, they did not know that I was recording CPS for 6 months. They didn't know, and they do not know to this date, that I have been recording the courtroom. I'm publishing what took place.
Well, now you're live.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. They're not going to find this. These people are following my Twitter feed, hoping I make a mistake. They're not going to be able to find you guys. So, sorry?
I don't mean to cut you off, but my daughter just said, "Ha ha, mom. He sounds just like you."
I mean, I'm really lucky because he's taught me a lot of stuff. But like where he leaks stuff, that's where I'm at. I mean, people have been yelling at me, leak it. Well, here we are because it's one of those things where when the truth is given back to them, because when you go into a courtroom, there's always two sides to every story. And the problem is when they victimize like actual parents and they try to get them like scared to get them quiet, okay, you don't get to talk. And what they do is they use these false actors or these attorneys, and you are to listen to them. Well, when you listen to them, even though you know they're wrong, then what ends up happening is you end up not having a voice. And a part of all of this is like finding your voice.
Yep.
Because you've got to be able to say, you can't do this. Like, that's a lie. That's perjury of the court. And the problem is until they get like smacked back into like their purpose, even though there isn't one, they're going to keep doing this to people across the nation. And that's the problem that we're all facing.
And they will get slapped back because here's the thing, and I'm not black-pilled. About 20 or 30 years, Gen X went to sleep and we lost all our rights. There is no Bill of Rights in this country. All right. Right now, everybody that has the power can do whatever they damn well want to every single person. But the population has to be ignorant of that fact. So when the lower courts screw up and you follow the proper panel and you get up to the top, the upper courts slap them down hard because they have to keep it a secret. Because if 330 million people realize that their rights were no longer guaranteed, that they were no longer protected equally, they'd rise up. And you got 330 million people against 44,000 judges. That's overnight a complete change. So that's why when you do,
Mary, I think that's on your side, dear. Sorry, she was saying that everything is suddenly blurry on her side. I think that's just her side. Everything is clear over here.
When I tell people that have to go to court and they're like, "Oh my God, the judges tell me to sit down and shut up." There's a couple. One is Butts versus Economou in the United States versus Lee. Now, people aren't going to remember that. It took me a long time to figure out how to say Economou. So I learned from another advocate. He does child support. He tells people, and now I tell people, when the judge tells you this, you need to remind them about these cases. And he tells people, now I tell people, all you have to say is the butts stop here, Mr. Lee, because those two cases are directly towards the judge that tells the judge they are not above the Constitution. They took an oath and they must honor that oath.
But to them, the oath doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't.
You're right.
Anymore. This country, at some point in time, I was talking to somebody else earlier. There's a good portion of the population that doesn't have an inner dialogue. They don't have a Jiminy Cricket. They don't have, for whatever reason, a conscience that makes them go, what's going on here? Those people are the problem because they just don't care. And without that inner dialogue, that oath, it's just something they spit before they get their robe and they take their seat. So they don't actually care about this country. Many of these folks, like the one that just happened, I did a background check on her. She's a card-carrying, hardcore leftist Democrat. She believes in all of these insane things, mutilation of genitalia, any number of a dozen things that you can pick, this judge believes in. She has the audacity to argue with one of her respondents in the courtroom, not in the courtroom, on Facebook, and then ignore a motion to recuse. That is a violation of multiple laws in every state, violation of federal laws, violation of judicial code of conduct, violation of judicial code of ethics, and she doesn't care. Luckily, somebody was recording in that courtroom, so we have all of that on tape now. And George Saldano's leaking it. I don't know who he got it from. I'm trying to get copies myself because I'm meeting with Jennifer Lundy with Texans from Judicial reform, as well as 8 members of the representatives that are here. And we can't really talk about the details of the case because that's always subjective to the individual, and it's really hard to prove that you're objective. But they're going to want to see that when a member of the press walked into this courtroom, the judge, under threat of arrest, threw him out. He then went upstairs, talked to the administration, got put back in, and then she threatened him. And then she yelled at him for disrupting her court when I moved from one seat to another to get a better view. And then at the very end, she also went as far as to preach to me about how I should be concerned about self-preservation. And when I asked her if she could elaborate because I was confused, she said, listen, you need to be more worried about yourself than other people.
Wow.
What?
Recording. All on recording. Every
She did
single
it
courtroom
herself.
needs to be recorded from this point forward. People need to walk in. They need to find out how to do it. They've got to find people like George Saldano. They've got to find people who are willing to go in with undercover gear. People need to start familiarizing themselves with James O'Keefe Media Group, because he has, I think it's like $250, but it's a master class on how to be a PI, and he gives you undercover recording equipment free. He busted 2 attorneys practices here in Texas and 1 judge, and it's all over his channel. And what's crazy
Amber,
is
put that in the links.
What is it?
Put what he
Spell it.
it's O
Here,
apostrophe
just type it.
O Keefe
And if a
Media
state is a
Group
two-way party, or
used to be.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, what?
even
Say
if
that
your
again?
state is a two-way if your state is a
Two-way
two-way
consensus
consent,
for
you
private.
can still record.
Two state party is for recording phone calls. Courts are public.
Okay.
End of discussion. Full stop.
Okay.
That's why George is able to go in and say, I'm going to record your courtroom. Do something about it. And they sit down. All right. Courtrooms are public. Even the juvenile ones, there is some level and there's ways for us to get in there. There's paperwork that we have to fill out well in advance, which is why they sometimes, you notice, they move slowly all the way up until they got to cock block somebody. And then they're processing paperwork in like 30 seconds. So there's paperwork you can fill out where I could walk into a courtroom and say, here's the paperwork, I'm authorized. The judge typically has to give permission, but if she doesn't, well, then she's in violation of the First Amendment right of the press. And then all I got to do is go to the administrators and they're going to override her because they don't want that kind of noise. So then what happens is I set up and I would record only the hearing that I'm authorized for. I'm not typically allowed to go in and record 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's not normally allowed, nor should it be, because some people don't know about this. Some people are wealthy. You know, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, they televise theirs. You know, other people, they have money, but they don't want to be on TV and they don't want to be part of the system. They just want to get through the mess as quickly as possible.
So Karen does have a bill that can be presented in every state to get sponsored and hopefully passed. And if I think she's talking about the right one, I already have it in my email. I can pass it on.
And I sent that to a woman that I work with at a law school. I said, we need a sponsor. She said, we already have a similar one here that's on the table in Virginia right now.
I'm currently, as you guys know, working on a Federal Protection Act as well as a Children's Rights Act that is getting proposed. I want to be able to tie them all because I think a lot of this in general can be mitigated with like the proper laws, because here's the biggest issue. When you go into a state court, they are still subjected to federal laws. So when you have somebody commit perjury on the bench and you bring it to the judge, Your Honor, the statement that was made is not correct. This individual committed perjury. 9 out of 10 times they ignore it. So the issue I have is there has to be an oversight. There also has to be an administrative merit oversight of this, which a lot of these family cases, they're going to have to pull them all back and review them. The other issue is, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, my background is military, veterans, you know, stuff like that. The military protective orders can only be retracted by a commanding officer. Even after somebody is out, that protective order is still valid per the DoD policies. So now you have these military service members who are getting double jeopardy at a state level because to the state, they go, oh no, well, you don't have to follow it. Well, that protective order is no contact in any contact. And if it's not retracted, then it's still valid. So how many veterans are out there with active protective orders even though they were out, you guys all know there's a period that they can be recalled back in, right? And depending on their REI status or whatever it is, their recall status, that could affect them. And so a part of where some of the stuff I'm working on is I want to make the ties between the military community and the civilian community, because that's where CPS is also heavily preying. Because the other aspect is FAP, which is Fleet and Family for the military, states in their policies that they actually have to take these cases and it cannot be dispersed. The only thing they can do is ask CPS to assist off base. They can't really turn over the cases. And so what they're doing is they're turning over these cases, and these military families are losing their kids, being put under safety plans. They're doing all of this stuff. You know, there's fraud that these service members are doing, and it's falling on their family members. And so in the big scheme of things, if you tie up the loose ends or the loopholes of this, there needs to be, if you have a protective order in Maryland, full faith credit, okay, to any protective order. Why does a human being have to explain to a law enforcement officer in another state that they have to follow the other state's specific protective order? For example, North Carolina has a 50B, which is for like intimate, like if I was dating somebody. A 50C is my next door neighbor, okay? The problem is when you go to Virginia, and Tiff, you know this, you have hostile and non-hostile. Well, let's go to Maryland. They have the same setup as North Carolina, but it's no contact. So when you have to sit there and you have to explain to law enforcement officers what full faith credit is, how many victims are you getting stuck in the middle? Because they're jumbling all these different laws that are already like predisposed at a federal level, and they're just not being administered properly. So like the other aspect is the children's rights. Children have rights. And at one point, the United States created a bill. They proposed it to the UN, but they're one of the only countries that never signed the children's rights. And so one of the things I want to bring back to Congress into that sector is a federal children's rights, because how many of these kids' voices are silenced? Or you have parent alienation. Why is that not defined in any of these things? Or coercion?
Well, first of all, there should be children's rights, but technically, any person born in the United States is born with these rights. We shouldn't be telling law enforcement shit. They should know it, but they don't. Congress should know it. They don't. Nobody knows it. I'm telling you, they swear that they know these. In fact, I even have the county sheriff's handbook. I read it. Deputy sheriffs and the sheriff, they are supposed to enforce Constitution laws. Okay? That's what their job is. The police department are code enforcers. So they have two different jobs, but they all do the same job. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then you have constitutional sheriffs who are making threats to these families, and they're being co-conspirators to these like CPS agents. And I mean, you see it in West Virginia, you see it in North Carolina, you see it
here,
in Virginia, you see it here, you see it everywhere. And so the problem is these officers are taking an oath of office. Where is the oversight when you FOIA request your attorney general to follow the money, basically, because you have suspicion of RICO? Because in some states, the judges are elected. So when you see and you go into their actual election and you see that attorneys are paying a specific judge, wouldn't that be a conflict of interest? Like, if you're paying a judge specifically $6,000, $4,000, and it's only the attorneys that work CPS cases, that's not a red flag. Or the DAs, you can do that too. So that's the issue, is where's the oversight from the attorney general? Because in some states, some of these offenses are impeachable of the attorney general. Some of these offenses are, without a shadow of a doubt, you're removed from your office. But 9 out of 10 times, for example, my favorite attorney general in Virginia, why do I have to tell you when something is leaked? When you get a confidential name change, Why do I have to explain it to you? Like, it's your job as an attorney general to investigate these crimes that were brought to you. So if you can't investigate these crimes, then what are we doing? Because you're not doing your job. And so there's a level of accountability that has to be had across the states, like all 50 states, because these attorney generals need to step in and they need to network. So if you have address confidentiality in California, when you move to another state, it is transferable for the federal government. So why aren't you preemptively setting these families up for success? No, you guys are more concerned of like setting them up for failure because in the end you make more money. And to me, that's just not okay.
Oh,
Well, I did an article
It's not okay.
for one of the news somewhere in Richmond. I don't know, it was over the phone. But they put it in cardinalnews.org. And my very first words to the reporter was, the whole system is set up to make families fail. That's the truth. You can't get around it. But yet, when because I say it, I don't care. I told a delegate, the system is broken. I had another guy who's part of the system. Well, Miss Wise, it's not broken. Yes, it's broken. Do you have CPS knocking at your door? Do you have child support putting liens on your bank account? Do you have the judge telling you in a civil matter, if you don't pay this child support, your ass is going to jail for failure to obey? I don't obey nobody. Okay.
I think my favorite thing is when they know who's doing all of this stuff to a specific victim, right? And they have all the proof and everything, but they still want to attack the victim because God forbid they actually say, oh shit, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. Why not just make it simple? If you know somebody is doing something and they're co-conspiring with all of these people, why not just go, hey, we messed up and we're sorry. You know, people don't want money. They want their kids back. They want to live their life. And I think out of most cases that I've seen, and, you know, I don't really talk about my stuff personally because it's pretty effed up. We all know this, that anybody knows. But it's like, nobody wants the money. We want our kids and we want you to do your job. And here's my thing on CPS. It was established for the health and human services of these children. There are extreme cases where kids sometimes have to be removed temporarily. So maybe mom's not, you know, into something and dad's done doing drugs. Okay. Like, the other issue that I have is homelessness of these families, because when you call these agencies, a caseworker has to provide resources. So when you're providing resources, you guys get money, right? To like pay the electric bill, to help these families, to do all this stuff. But you're more concerned about mental health of whatever client you want to like target at that moment, especially the ones that call them out. That's a federal crime. That's practicing medicine. Do you have a psychologist license? Do you have the right to diagnose these people? So like social workers, if they want to step in, they need to step in for their purpose, which is to be the life coach, the cheerleader of the family, you know, okay, let's do budgeting. Like they need to reassign what their purpose is, because the problem is what they're doing now. A lot of them, there's like good ones, and then you have like the small bad apples. Well, all those bad apples in all these states are adding up. When Virginia has over 700,000 foster care kids missing, and I believe it was like back in the early 2000s, where are these kids? I mean, there's families in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Missouri, and they haven't seen their kids. Like they won their kids' case, and they still don't even know where their damn kids are. And so they've gone through the process. And I think it's one of those things where it's like CPS needs to be removed in one capacity and needs to be moved to another capacity in conjunction with the ability of what they were purposed for. The other issue I have is advocates. When you're a domestic violence advocate and you work for a nonprofit and you guys are getting federal grants, when a victim comes into your office to try to get the assistance, because the other aspect is domestic violence protective orders are being weaponized in family court. When there are actually dire need situations for this, you cannot decline somebody assistance because they attended somebody's return of gun hearing. How do you know that they weren't forced? Like, but you guys are getting federal funding. but yet none of them know about address confidentiality, which is a federal thing in 38 states. So it's like they're not only setting these families up, once these families fall, they're resetting them up to fall back again, but this time harder. And that's where I have an issue with this. And almost every case that deals with CPS is almost identical in specific errors. Like she stated, wrong name, wrong birthday, probably wrong father. Father didn't exist. Wrong attorney. I mean, we could go all day long, but that's an erroneous error that they can't even do that. So then they go get non-secure custody orders, right? And they take your kids, but they committed fraud and perjury by falsifying information about your kids. That's kidnapping. Where's the accountability?
Well, here's the thing, and I think we all can agree to this. When you're in front of a judge, CPS, it doesn't matter. It's always, you did this, right? You did that. You need to accept responsibility. Now we're going, no, they did this. They did that. Where's their accountability? Nobody's holding anybody accountable but me.
I will give you one personal snippet of my shit, because I called both of y'all last night and I about fell over. Okay. And in my case, mine deals with a fraud adoption of a little girl and my adoption and everything else. Okay. When you find a recording from a mental health hospital that you and the bio mom attended court, okay, we attended court like virtually. You find the hearing, right? And the judge literally on the hearing, not only you and the bio mom are reporting what happened to this minor child, okay? They're agreeing that this minor child needs to be returned to her bio mom, because they stated exact when you say the adoption order is void. And he goes, okay, well then let's have the bio mom stay on here. What do you think? The minute they brought her into this hearing, the minute they agreed to the order being void, why then turn around and everything that was reported in audio, in photos, in documents, then blamed on the two people that reported it? Because then they covered it up. So I'm sitting here last night. I called both of them. I was like, you're not going to believe what I found. Like, are you kidding me? And that's the sad thing is, Kels, like, you probably have a million things to show that you are like an amazing mom and that they're just targeting you. But you have to also understand that, like, this is the name of the game. And it's like, it has taken me, and I am still learning. And I've been smacked around a few times, put in the corner, because I got to learn a lot of shit. Okay. Like, I'm only good at specific things, but you've got to try different options. And I think that's the hardest thing is Spanny can say this, Tiff can say this, Dave can probably say this. There is not one set way to actually attack the nature of the beast of CPS. There's not one set way to attack judges or attorneys to ask them to do their job.
And we get that a lot.
Yeah.
We get that a lot. I get told, you have to do it this way. And I'm like, no, you don't. You can do it this way too. No, you have to. It's the only way it works. I was like, no, you can do it totally different ways. I don't kick kids home just by doing a simple one thing.
If there was a magic pill, we would be using it all the time.
The blue pill or
Meg,
the red pill? I feel like we're in the Matrix
Tiffany,
at this point.
Tiffany, Meg asked, did you sit in on my hearings? Meg's out of West Virginia.
No, but I know how it goes, because they want the parents or the whoever the guardian is, they want you to accept responsibility, whether it's true or not. But when then you call them out and you want them to accept their responsibility, then nobody's accountable but you, because you were brought to them. They weren't brought to you.
I do want to say one more thing before he interjects. Listen, anybody that has the courage to stand up and speak back at these people, mentally prepare yourself, okay? And I'm saying this, and I can't scream it. Mentally prepare yourself that when you stand up and you point out medical negligence, malpractice, legal malfeasance, malicious, prosecution, when you stand up and you read the Constitution and you read these federal laws and you say, you know what, I've had enough, be prepared.
Yep.
Because they are going to turn back around and they are going to make your life a living effing hell. And even though you're right, you have to follow God on this and hold truth to yourself. It is the hardest battle that anybody's ever gone through. And like Dave even said it, I have felt alone. Tiffany has felt alone. Spanny has felt alone. Everybody, Dave has felt alone. Nobody realizes how big this community is of people that have shared in this same crazy effery that somebody's experienced. There's somebody every day that was human trafficked 38 years ago. There is somebody every day that is a sexual assault victim that's now an adult. There is somebody every day that's a kid that went through having to lie about one parent so they didn't feel prosecuted or persecuted. There's kids all over this country right now going through reunification counseling and camps, and they're being alienated. And the hardest thing to do as a parent is to understand that that is not your kid, okay? Your kid is in there somewhere, but you have to find the support in groups like Wicked Warriors Family, Families United Global, like all of these different things. And I think the greatest thing is like, and I can say this, is watching all of this come together now. Because I think everybody's on here has had this envision of like one thing, but another thing. But you had to have the teams that were willing to go boots on the ground. And so this is where we're at, is it's connecting all these pieces. Tiffany is constitutional all day long, every single day. Spanny, CPS, every freaking day. I mean, she knows stuff about them.
Mine varies.
Yeah, but you know
Mine
stuff
varies.
that I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
And mine
but
does
that's-
too. And the reason I can say that verbatim is because and my daughter's on here. Before I came out as an advocate, you had to know somebody who knew me to get me to help you, right? Because when my daughter said to me, when we left the hospital that night, Mom, what about CPS? And she's on here. And my exact words to her were, I got them. I know how they act. I know what they say. I know their little tricks. I know verbatim what you're told in court. I know it all. I've been doing this over 30 years. My daughter's on here. I've helped so many people and they couldn't figure out who was helping them. I even helped lawyers. I told lawyers, hey, my own daughter's lawyer was like, oh my God, Miss Wise, thank God you knew what the rights were, because I can just step right in and take over, because by the time these cases get to me, I have to go all the way back and catch up. So trust me, I can probably tell you more verbatim what's going on in a courtroom and with CPS. I know how they are. That's why I told my daughter, don't worry about it. And when they showed up, oh, were they surprised? They were looking for her, but they got me. Yeah, look, they just didn't believe her at first, and they found out quickly. Yes, they did.
I mean, and that's what I say. This is so big, and then like I can tell you right now, like I see it in your face, but like you have everybody here and so many more people behind the scenes that are able to step in, be an emotional support, walk you through this, because some of us are still currently fighting the same battle. Okay, and you're not alone. And as weird as that sounds, like the I got your six has become a really big staple in all of this, because what I found out too, and I'm sure they can attest, blood-related family isn't always family. Family is defined as who you make it and who finds you on the broken journey along the way, picks you up, dusts you off and says, let's go. And that's, I think, has been the staple of all of this coming together, which is like amazing, because it's like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known what to do. And if half these people were in my life 4 years ago, I would have never been in the spot that I was in. But all that matters is everybody's here now.
Well, we try, right? Because we do. Hold on 1 second, Dave. And we're going to be Facebook friends.
No, we're not.
And that's one reason why Spanny and I teamed up, right? Because I can't speak for other advocates, but what I will say is there's really only 3 advocates that I work with. Okay. And the reason, and my daughter can attest to this, my circle is so small that we can hula hoop in a Cheerio.
Oh my God.
So go ahead, Dave.
I'm sorry, it's my turn now. I don't know how I can follow up with that. Yes, CPS does make you guilty before you're innocent. However, when you start to master that, then they flip it up. In my case, I wasn't guilty of anything. What they did with me was they said, well, we need you to follow these steps so that we can rule out everything. And they strung me along. From November to July, I was demanding that they actually give me an evaluation because they originally used an evaluation where opposing counsel coordinated with the evaluator to get the responses that they want. Now that resulted in me going to court-ordered therapy from the very evaluator for 9 months, where that counselor was a rock star. She discredited everything that was in the report and basically said it was a nothing burger. So for that period of time, I'm like, evaluate me. It's going to come back clear. My ex is lying. Can we say names on here? No names. Okay, that's too bad. I love names. But either way, my
Unless
ex,
it's a judge.
I can't hear you.
Tiff, you're on mute. Tiffany, take your mute button off.
Names. You can say whatever you want.
Okay.
Freedom of speech.
So my ex was a liar. She's some kind of sociopathic narcissist, probably suffering from encapsulated delusional disorder. I don't know. I'm not going to diagnose her, but she actually believes what she says is real. The problem is it's only ever her talking. I've been recording my life for the better part of 14 years. It's insane how much data I have on myself. So you have to be prepared that while you get used to them making you guilty, you also have to realize that you may be innocent, they may know it, and they may still do this no matter what, because what happened in my case was Judge Shilpa Naik broke Interstate Compact Act law. She actually defined my daughter, Rebecca, as a wayward child, and she did not meet the criteria at all under any stretch of the imagination. She only used it to imprison her here in Texas for 6 days and then extradite her back to Rhode Island, where they institutionalized her for 6 months and put her through behavioral programming. So you got to be prepared for stuff like that. Well, they will flip it on you. So while we don't have one way to attack, they also don't have one way to destroy.
Or when you file in the actual Supreme Court in DC, 3 days later, they come in when you're handling your own kids' personal issues, and then they come after you for their 4 years of negligence that you have. Like, it's a name of a game. I mean, you can show dead to rights, you didn't do anything, but the minute you let them in your house, and the other recording that I found, I about fell over because the worker admitted everything that had happened to my kids. Like, everybody that later came back after me years later, they're all admitting to all of this stuff on recording with the CPS workers in a 2.5-hour CFT meeting of everything they witnessed my son go through and everything they witnessed all of us go through. And Virginia Beach actually stated on recording, well, we never got the police reports when there were 3 active detectives in the case. And so my state and my county for years knew. And when I spoke up was when they came in. So like it's a cluster, and they try to figure it out. But the problem is these judges, they do what they want. And so you have to hold them administrative. You have to file the FOIA request. You have to follow up, but it's corruption within corruption. And when you have attorney generals that you contact in certified letters and you ask them to follow up on this stuff and they don't, most Americans are stuck in the boat of, what do I do next? Well, when you feel like you've tried everything, that's where it's important to like reach out to people that specialize in this, especially these two. Mine's more military and VA law, and domestic violence, just because I've experienced it. But I know bits and pieces of things here and there. But when you reach out to the big group in the scheme of things, what you'll find is somebody did something and they tried it and it worked for them. So it's like you just got to keep like perpetuating forward, if that makes sense. And it's hard at times.
In addition, I'd like to weigh in. I told Karen Cook I would answer her thing about recording in the courtrooms. So I was watching one of my podcasts the other day with Larry Elder, one of my favorites, and he actually said something that triggered me in a good way. He said the Nuremberg trials made it clear that orders is not a valid excuse for breaking the law. So yesterday, while I'm driving around in my car, I actually spent an entire time memorizing an entire statement as a member of the press. And what you got to do is, in your states, you have to find people like me. You have to find people like George Saldano, whose Give a Damn is busted. Okay. We don't care. George Saldana walks into the courtroom. He looks at the judge. I'm recording. Do something about it. No? Okay. Thanks.
You should repeat that script.
So I'm going to repeat the script
Okay.
that I practiced. And mind you, I have a high school degree. So after hearing that, I developed this following statement that I'm going to cover with the Master at Arms, or whatever they call them for the Capitol Police of the court, and the administration simultaneously. The Nuremberg trials made it expressively clear that following orders is not an excuse for breaking the law. So I'm notifying you now that any individual who puts their hands on me in violation of my 1st, 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 14th Amendment rights will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. At the time of the committing of that crime, I expect that individual to identify me with their first and last name, as well as their badge number and or administrative position within this building. Failure to provide such will also result in a additional charge of obstruction of justice under the color of law, and will also be followed with federal law of 1842, 1843, conspiracy to rob an individual of their due process, liberties, and rights. That I just fired off and memorized that yesterday. So any reporter can say that. Then the administrative team is now on notice. That is not a threat. That is a notice of legal action. That is me saying, I am here. I know my rights. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to record. And you need to make sure that that judge treats me with the same respect that he expects to be treated with. It's non-negotiable.
So Tiffany knows what I'm going to say. That works in most states. West Virginia, you'll get your ass thrown in jail.
Well, that's
Every
because you don't have enough advocates. George Saldano's done jail, and once he got out, they're a lot more careful about what they do to him now.
No, I'm gonna take Spanny's side on this.
Okay.
West Virginia.
So, yeah, West Virginia is my problem child. West Virginia, the judges there, they just don't give a crap. Schaefer's flat out said that the federal laws do not apply in his courtroom.
Oh, yes, I've heard that before.
Yeah, we have judges here to say the same thing.
Well, this is why I also promote and say, go fucking scorched earth. If these people are going to destroy you, then do what I did. And I'll type it in here. I created a website, and it has everything on it except 2023 and 2024. I did give them time to do the right thing. And now that they haven't, I've given it to the parties that are managing it. It's being uploaded. It's being updated. And they're screwed when that stuff goes live. So when you go scorched earth, they gagged me. I filed an objection. I demanded a hearing. We had a hearing. We had a findings of fact. The judge had to vacate his own order because there is no law anywhere in the state of Rhode Island or the country that he could find that denies a parent the right to advocate on behalf of their child. And my website, while it's extremely hostile towards some snowflake sensitive clowns, it is not offensive. It is advocating for what they did to my child. So I advise everybody to just put up a .com, because here's the thing. You can put up a .com and then you can transfer it to somebody randomly, maybe through a loved one. So you don't know who the hell's managing it. And for $15 a month, you now have plausible deniability. Your Honor, I don't have control of my website anymore. I don't know the login. I don't know the password. I don't know anything. So other individuals are now managing this for a mere $15 a month, and it's out there forever. It's now memorialized. When I upload the recording of Taylor Bartone admitting that she was treating my daughter after her supervisor said she wouldn't, and me finding out that she wasn't licensed as a therapist in the state of Rhode Island, that's up there forever. And even if they do go after the website, once you have that website built, under the settings, there's one button you push that actually backs that whole thing up into a file that allows you to go to another website and immediately upload it again. And there are also other things, for those of you who are not familiar with crypto or any of that, blockchain technology. There is a company called Unstoppable Domains. It runs on a blockchain. It cannot be taken down. It's not subject to state law. It's not subject to federal law. It is blockchain technology. So for all of their frustration, I no longer control my site. My site's backed up, and it's on an unstoppable domain. It can't be taken down. Even if they go after the primary website, the secondary website's going to be there. I also advise everybody, I'm not a fan of social media. We will not be friends on Facebook because I gave up my Facebook account for mental health reasons many, many years ago, and I've never been better. However, I do have a Twitter X account because that's where you go for news. And what happens is if all of us start following each other and one of us posts something important and then we all share it, that changes the algorithm and causes it to trend in everybody else's feed. So that's what we have to start doing. We can't hide behind this anymore. We have to start going public, and we have to say, fuck it, I'm done. No more, no more. Because I'm now looking at this like, I just went through 14 years of hell, $112,000. I was winning every single one of my cases all the way up until CPS got involved. And then this activist twit, 26-year-old girl, fresh out of college with a 3-year-old kid, no baby daddy, as far as I understand it, decided to do what she did, along with covering up what the judge did. There was no stopping it. I did not have any chance in hell. So now, no more, because if we let this sit, all right, if we let it stay, then each and every single one of this is going to be back here. I'm going to be doing this again when I'm 68 for one of my kids. That's why I'm doing it now. You go to the website, you read what they put me through, you'll understand why I'm so passionate. I don't fucking charge anybody $1 for what I do. I do it for free.
Will you put your website?
Yeah, I'll type it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Me and Sandy don't charge either.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
No.
And
that's
in
what's
West
going to
Virginia,
that's one of the aspects. One of the modes of attack is going to fix this. Like I said, there are so many lawyers in this country. If 30%, 40%, 50% start representing themselves, because it's not hard. I am a high school. That's it. I got no other higher education. And I won for 14 years straight. Anybody can learn this. And if 50% of this country starts representing themselves, you now have all these lawyers who are starving. Their businesses cannot stay open. They will have to have a come to Jesus moment with themselves where they say, no, you know what? I'm going to stay part of the corrupt crew because, they took care of me. They hooked up my bank account. I was getting mad revenue from the group home because I was keeping their beds full. Or shit, I got to do my fucking job. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And you know what? Go ahead, Fanny.
I am in a position of an investigative, and I am an
investigative reporter,
independent investigative journalist. There's a difference. I'm not a reporter. I don't report to CNN. I don't have a table or any of that stuff. I go to court with people. I have credentials, and what most people don't realize is there's no such thing as press credentials. That's just not real. What it is you pay an organization to get a press pass for that organization, and as long as you maintain your dues, you're in good standing. Credentials only exist in places like the White House where they have high-level security and you have to have clearance to be where you're at. I can go grab mine.
It's basically what Don Foster was when we were working with Don Foster, Karen.
Right. And I also want to say that judges and lawyers do not have a license. You all do know that, correct?
It's a really cool bar card. You just need to ask him for the piece of paper.
Hang on, I'll be right back.
That's just a bar card. That just means he's part of a fraternity.
I'm making fun of it. I'm going to make fun of that. Just because
they have a bond.
Paper. Can I have a membership ID?
They have what, Fanny?
They have a bond. That's what they have.
Right. So they don't have a license. And like he said, if everybody started representing themselves, first of all, you can never be charged with practicing the law because as a citizen, it is our duty to know what the damn laws are. Okay. That's just what it is.
But aren't we going to start doing training classes on this because we need to expand this to try to get people to understand it?
We need Dave, and we need Dave on these lives too.
So here's the first thing. This is an NPPA pass. It's National Press Pass. That cost me $10. I didn't have to take a class. I didn't have to do anything. It's basically, this one here specializes in photography and video, which is exactly what I've done. And I've published all that stuff online on my website. That cost me $10 to get. It came within 5 weeks. And what I have to do to stay in good standing with them is pay them the dues of $15 a month. I have 2 more coming in, one that's Texas specific and one that's national specific as well. Because if you just stick with one, then they're going to be like, it's just a fad. They're a group. Ignore them. But when you start coming in with multiple credentials from multiple sources all across the country and your own state, it gives you a lot more credibility.
So let me ask you, do you go into the courtrooms with those and record if somebody needs you?
Without question. Absolutely.
Have you ever thought about becoming a notary?
I have, but I have to be careful because when I start crossing into that line, I know about the 3 notary. She explained to me yesterday. That's actually kind of cool. But when you start crossing lines, you run into a conflict of interest. So, for example, if I was to take over as power of attorney for an individual who got rid of their judge, needed an advocate, I could no longer operate as a reporter. I would need somebody, or a journalist. I would need somebody else like George Saldano to take over for me. So when you start grabbing all the jobs, you start running into conflicts of interest, which is why ultimately you have to have a very large team of people that's diverse in what it is that they do. We need 3 separate notaries who don't do anything else. We need independent journalists. We need independent journalists who are willing to do POV and advocacy as long as another independent journalist can take over. And so far, we have to create layers of our own bureaucracy, just like CPS, DCYF, and all these other agencies have done for decades. We need to follow, as much as I hate to say it, their model. And we have to use their procedures against them, because for us, the procedure is the punishment. But like I said earlier, when you are able to take this far enough up, the procedure becomes the punishment is also applicable to them, because this nation, the Supreme Court, cannot let everybody know that their rights really don't friggin' matter, that it's subject to the judge that's on the bench. If you have a Democrat, you're guilty if you're a Republican. If it's a Republican, you're guilty if it's a Democrat. If they're white, you're guilty if you're black. If they're black, you're guilty if you're white. If you're Hispanic, everybody hates you. It's fucking crazy what's going on right now. And it's completely subjective to the person that's on there because they lack any and all objectivity.
And see, Dave is with Families United. One of the things that they're doing is they're hubbing kind of like NCAA, or well, whatever, like they're hubbing in every state. So they're going to have like each chapter in every state, one in Alaska, one in North Carolina, one in Virginia. Don't talk too much
about that. I don't want that getting out. That's got to stay low key until we grow.
But see,
even I said that with what I'm doing too.
You know what?
I said I even told her that because what I'm going to do needs to stay low key as well. So
yeah. I'm going to go to the corner now.
Well, what it is a lot of people like to walk in and talk shit. And what they don't realize they're doing is they're actually projecting what it is they're going to do. So now they've got time to prepare. And if it's too short, well, then suddenly somebody will fall down a flight of stairs and one of the attorneys will need a continuance, and then they'll have 6 weeks to prepare. So like that statement that I said earlier that I memorized, I really shouldn't have said on here. Because if they do happen to see this, then the next time I walk into a courtroom, or if a CPS or a court clerk or a judge is actually monitoring this channel, they're going to be prepared for something like that. So ultimately, it's not, when we do things like this, we need to shock and awe them like it's Kuwait. We need to make Kuwait look like a sparkler from 4th of July. We hit them with everything all at once everywhere, without them actually knowing what the game plan is, and then they're now on the defensive. If we go on the attack, and I don't mean violence, none of that shit, that has given them exactly what they want. In one of these cases, it was insane. I watched the judge brag about how she gave this gentleman back his Second Amendment rights, but she sent him to jail and she used her discretion to override an illegal protective order to give him back his Second Amendment rights, but then refused to use her discretion to override that same illegal protective order from a now disgraced Judge Sadler to not give him back his First Amendment rights. He went to jail for 6 months for bitching on Facebook. That was it.
And it wasn't even directed at the person. It was so vague.
The statements that he made, you got thousands of fathers talking about on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, all of it, saying the same exact thing that he said, and he's now going to jail for it. That's insane.
Well, you do know that they locked James Kelly up, and he's an ADA advocate for recording.
Well, again, it doesn't matter. This is why if we go in with multiple, look, I went there to record. They took my stuff from me to let me back into that courtroom. I was taking notes on my hand with a pen because I did not expect them to do that. But somebody in that courtroom was recording, and they clearly had a very high-tech mic because it was one of those focused ones that was able to pick up individual voices wherever they were pointing. So I don't know who that was. I would love to meet them. I will keep their information private because also as a journalist, my sources are confidential. I don't fucking have to tell you a goddamn thing. I have a journalistic obligation to protect my sources at all costs. You want my sources? You ain't getting them. Throw me in jail. And then I'll have you for something else. That's how it goes. Do something about it.
when
That needs-
CPS, well, first of all, when CPS came here and I said, I don't know where my daughter is, right? I said, I think she took him to the father. They were like, well, where's the father? I said, he has a Fourth Amendment right to privacy. I don't know who he is.
Jesus Christ. That also doesn't say, I mean, damn. We got to learn not to hang ourselves.
I don't care. CPS hates me. I do not care.
I understand that, but we're also dealing with pure evil, whether it's malicious, abject, or the banality of. So we can't.
But
give
listen,
them the initiative
we-
that moves against us.
We are all doing good, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good always outweighs evil. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Good will always win. And when they come and I'm involved, I am good. They are evil. And as far as I'm concerned, and I've told the prosecutor here, and I've known him for 25 years. And I told him, you do know that I don't care if you're a judge, to a prosecutor, to a bum in the street. We are all created equal, and I fear none of them. And this is what he said to me. Tiffany, you keep advocating on the Constitution because it is all that we the people have to stand on. That's exactly what he said to me.
He's not wrong. He's absolutely right.
So good versus evil.
Is, again,
You-
we rise
you
up.
don't even-
We are people. There's 10 to 12 million people in family court, CPS, any given time. There's only 44,000 judges, and not all of them are bad. We have a Supreme Court justice here in Texas who's actually fighting to make people do things according to the letter of the law. Out of all the Supreme Court justices, guess who's the only one that's getting primaried by his own party? That's right. They're targeting Justice Devine for removal because he's actually defending the rights and civil liberties of the members of Texas as well as members of the United States. We have to defend those
I don't-
people. And we also have to step up. They made, not just CPS, they all made parents a voter block. And you saw that firsthand in Virginia. Youngkin won. He turned that state blood red overnight because of what they were doing to parents and what they were doing to their kids. And we all have that power. Right now, at my discretion, I've got an individual, if there's something tied to criminal court, they can swing 6,000 votes. Most votes are only won by a couple hundred to a couple thousand. And it's not a threat to say, I'm going to primary your ass, because we can. I, with a high school education, actually qualify to run as a judge in Texas, except for two positions. I cannot be a probate and I cannot be an appeal. But under Texas law 81.1.1, it clearly defines practicing as law as any individual, and I'm paraphrasing because it's long, any individual who prepares any legal paperwork that results in adjudication. I've been doing this for 14 years. I qualify. The description says practicing law. That does not mean you're with the bar. Those other two positions says you have to be a practicing attorney licensed with the bar. So there's a lot of states where you got to dig down deep and realize most of us can replace all of these people. And that's where it has to start. You got somebody like Tanawa is talking about constitutional rights, and on many levels, he's correct. So there are people who can start at the top and push down, but it's up to us to actually start at the bottom and push up. In Virginia, that entire school board, except for two people, was primaried and replaced by local residents, regular parents. You do not have to have a political science degree to have a common sense in your head and a moral compass to do the right thing. And understanding the law is not nearly as hard as these attorneys want you to think it is.
Nope. And Texas actually has a parental rights bill now that has passed. So if CPS shows up your door, and there's one other state, I think it might be California, but I'm not sure. But I definitely know Texas. There is, I have to find it. Yes, if CPS, it's New York and Texas. If CPS shows up at your door, they have to do two things. They have to, one, notify you of your rights. And then 2 weeks later, they have to put your rights in writing. Yes, Texas and New York.
I wouldn't
So,
even answer. The door.
there is-
They show up at my door. I'm talking to them through the Ring camera, and I'm telling them to come back with a warrant.
Yeah, Kelsey, I
Yeah.
know it's not in California. That's why I was shaking my head no.
Yeah, it was
there
New
is one
York.
thing I wanted to say. Back where she was saying something about the father's place where he lives and the Fourth Amendment right. You do not have to tell CPS where you live. You do not have to tell the cops where you live unless they have a warrant in hand, because I've had some clients that get their kids removed at school or get their kids removed at church or the doctor's office. You do not legally have to tell them where you live.
Well,
That is up
CBS
to
is having
them
a
to find it
tendency
out.
at this point, Spanny, to go Virginia. There's somebody in Virginia, and I can't think of her name. She runs Parent Team 6. There's somebody in
That's
I
Virginia.
don't know.
I know exactly who you're talking about. She's on my Facebook page.
I work with her too, and she
Her name
literally.
is Ann.
There you go. She's literally stating that they are removing the kids from school, shadow removing them, and it is
They
happening.
do it all the time. They
Yeah,
do it all
well,
over the place all the time.
all over.
You guys got to realize that based on the Nuremberg trials and what I just said, that also implicates the school, and they are now
Yep.
on the hook for that legally as well because they facilitated kidnapping, or what I call now just nothing.
They
else.
have contracts, CPS contracts with the schools,
Right.
with the hospitals, with the doctors, with the daycares. So I have made parents, and I'm doing one for both my grandsons who are starting school in this year. I am writing up their paperwork. Those two will not be questioned. They will not be disciplined. Nothing. Nobody will do anything unless the parent or myself is there. Nobody's allowed to talk to them. And I've done this many a times, and I'm putting everything in there, including the color of law form. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
But see, even where they have those contracts, that's just like an order. It does not allow them to violate your rights, and it is not an excuse to break the law. If the law
Right,
is,
and I'm just saying.
and the school facilitates a kidnapping, that
Right.
school on the hook. Those
Yes.
people should be fired, they should be arrested, and the individual that facilitated it should be in jail.
Basically, what she's saying though is like when you preemptively prepare your kids in school in the filings, it's like an extra layer of protection, even though.
Well, no, what I'm saying is a lot of people don't understand, right? How they can just come to the school or go to daycare, whatever. It's because they have contracts with them.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And
Same
like
with
he
the
said,
hospitals and the
they're
doctor's
still
office.
responsible. Oh, but don't forget little Miss Take Care of Maya won her case.
I know. She was one of Fight or Cry's first people.
And she won.
I know. I watched the whole trial.
263 million. Was that
Yep.
what it was?
Yep.
Did she use
And-
a jury or
and,
was
yeah.
it a judge?
Huh?
Did
We
she
did.
use a jury
we
or
did
was it
for-
a judge?
It was a judge and a
It was a
jury.
judge. An individual
It
judge
was,
did.
it was a jury too.
Oh, a jury
Yeah.
was involved? Yeah, normally
Yeah.
they make one or the other, or then they do something like what Judge Eingron does and just overrides the jury. But the point is a lot of times.
We first had her back in 2020. We first did her story on Fight or Cries.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
It-
yeah,
That's a very sad story too.
yeah. Part of me is like it'd be great to find good judges, but then you're technically judge shopping. But the other thing is like jury, I feel is more ideal because you've got a 10 to 15% chance that somebody in that jury knows somebody or personally went through something like this themselves. And when you have somebody like that, or any of them, any human being, anybody with intelligence above room temperature, a moral compass, anyone who has a soul or just is not a scumbag on a jury will be like, I'm going to listen to the facts. Holy crap, that's wrong. And even though the judge just struck it, that's not leaving my mind because that's wrong. You know, you watch that old movie. What was it? Was it 12 Angry Men? Where there was one juror holding out because he's like, no, this dude's innocent. And the rest of them were like, no, we want to go home. I got steak dinner. I got to do X, Y, and Z with my business. You have enough of a population now that has experienced and been victimized and traumatized by this system. that the odds are in your favor that you're going to get at least one, more, maybe two. Because the people who are doing this, they're actually not part of the jury pool.
Well, people don't believe me. So I looked up the 7th Amendment, and I think you should read this book too. I got another one for you. I love these books. They really should not write books. Hold on.
Where is it?
Which one?
No, I'll find
Do
it.
you have it?
We have 6 books right now. The 2 that you've shown, we don't.
Let me
So
see what you got.
We have this one.
How to Alienate a Narcissist.
And then this one.
Okay.
And then this one.
Okay. I might have that one.
This one.
Hold on, you froze. What is it?
Evidence Strategies for Child Custody.
And what else?
This one.
This one is Why
I got
Divorce
all their
Court-
books. I got all their books.
This one's a fun one. Everybody should have this on their nightstand.
Suing judges.
Yep. And then this one.
I got that one too.
Yep. And then I do have another one. I'm going to step out for a moment that I have to warn people about. I'm actually putting it on my Twitter tonight.
Amber.
So
Take
one of our
pictures.
representatives.
Amber. Take
Yeah.
pictures of all those books and send them to me in a text message. Except the ones that I already have.
Got it. There's
I was
another
gonna
one.
say
too.
put them on the Facebook group.
Yeah, and that too.
Also, I was going to say that here in Alaska, we have a representative that is an actual oath breaker. He had to go through Supreme Court to get approved of it, but there is no legal thing saying that they cannot actually sit on the board or sit on the legislation.
Wow.
He's a really good guy. He's a good friend of mine. He's been like through hell and back because they're still trying to slam him for it. But he is an oath breaker. He's a really good guy. He has 3 children, and I like him. I mean, I'd rather have more oath breakers sit up on the legislation because they follow the laws, and that's why they're so pissed off at him.
So there's one that I'm actually, I'll have her take the picture and send it to you as well. I'm doing a PSA on Twitter because we actually followed up with this one. And what we discovered was the individual who claims they won their lawsuit lost their lawsuit. And when you reached out to them, and I can't say anything, this is all allegations, it's alleged. But when we interacted with them, it was, hey, listen, we need $150. You got like an hour to respond, or we got to move on to the next person. Personally, with my experience, that felt like it was a cash grab scam that leads to nothing. And when you read the book, I don't know who did the editing, but I'm guessing they had a 3rd grade reading level. There was a lot of typos, a lot of misspellings, and the book itself was probably about as thick as a comic book. And it read as such. It was triple spaced, medium fonts. It took, I think, maybe 20 minutes to read the whole thing. So I'm going to be putting that out as a PSA for people to try to avoid. Because I do believe we asked them questions. They never responded back. I challenged them. They never responded back. So I feel like we've got to watch out for the ones who are scam artists as well. Because there are plenty of people who just dive in on that boat too.
Let me see the book.
I can't
We
find it.
don't
I think
know
it
where
might
it
be
is.
upstairs
Oh.
with the rest of my hardware. So yeah,
Well,
that's great. But
Also,
I'm telling
if
you.
somebody's if somebody says that they're an advocate and they're going to be charging you guys money, do not accept it. If they say you have to pay their way to go to your state to help you, do not accept it. That's not a true advocate.
Listen, all of us that got into this, and I will say this, okay? And I still joke that I wanted to be an attorney like Elle Woods because I thought it was the way to go, okay? Because my case is so beyond kerfuffled, many years kerfuffled. I wanted to break it down. So I went and got my pre-law and politics degree. The only thing that taught me was basics of stuff. The rest of what I've had to learn has been from personal experiences and other advocates because they don't teach you what you have to know and they don't teach it at a level. So like people always say, go get a degree, go do this, go do that. it's a piece of paper, and I can say I did a part of it. But at this point, advocates are not in this for the money. Like, we didn't choose any of this. God chose this path for all of us because clearly he knew we could handle it. However.com, and I say this a lot, when advocates charge, they are either not good with their services, because we just had a situation here with an advocate, several of them, where documents are being written improperly. And like, when you write a document and you say, up here, you're responsible for all this, but down here, you release indemnity, you can't do that. So you also have to like fact check the people you're working with. You know, you have to make sure that, you know, they're not just giving you the mouth scheme of, hey, I can help you do all of this stuff, pay my way to come to here and I'll fix it all. You've got to follow up, because if you don't, 9 out of 10 times, actions speak louder than words. And that's what I've had to learn in this, is like, I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn every day. All of us do. There are things that I would indefinitely send to Tiffany and indefinitely send to Spanny and indefinitely go, Dave, I don't know what I'm doing. Fix this. Because at the end of the day, one advocate that can dabble in all is great. But I think the coolest thing about all of this is we all have a specialty that we directly know this chick can handle it. This dude can handle it. And that's what you have to do with advocates. Like, most of us are on donations of stuff too. Like, I don't know. I mean, I can tell you from experience, I had a military family chase my Cash App down for 2 years because I wouldn't give it to them. You know, that's my thing. I'm not doing this for that. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. He's not doing it. Like, we have been personally affected, obliterated by these courts, defamed, slandered. Most of us don't even have our side of the story out yet. And the thing out of this is, at the end of the day, even with the small circle that we all work with, we also have the credibility to where we know when somebody's telling the truth. We have like that lie detector, you know, you like see a case and you're like, no, why don't you tell me really what happened? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I've seen my fair share of, well, this doesn't add up to this, you know, and I think that's important that people know, because my biggest mistake when my case kicked off against me, after I ratted everybody out, and I'm still working on it, okay, whistle blew, whatever, and called them out, and they came after me, whatever. My biggest mistake was grabbing bones of a million different people that were literally throwing them at me, going, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. And here's the problem. Now, in my situation, I have to triage everything, because even though I did exhaust and I couldn't exhaust some options, now you've got to break it down. So you also have to be careful of like what advice you're being given, because unless you've lived it and you've guinea pigged it yourself, or you have somebody, be leery, because I literally could have saved myself a shit ton of heartache and hell if I would have just listened to like one person that the entire time was like, don't do it this way, try it this way. And the problem was, at the end of the day, you can go back and say so-and-so's right, but it's all a life lesson. And I don't want to see somebody go in that same situation, especially in these family courts, especially when it deals with military stuff. Like, you can't take back certain things. You can triage it, but I went directly to the federal district courts after the Supreme Court, and things are still slowly piling through. But you've got to follow the processes and policies and procedures, and you have to have correct guidance. And like, that's what I have to tell everybody, is everybody has to be guided correctly.
Also, with the guided correctly thing, I have this client that she has probably about 10 to 15 advocates that she tries to follow what they say all the time. That don't work, guys.
Yeah, you got too many hands.
Stick to water.
I learned that. That's a life lesson. I should get like that is a
Hold
hard lesson.
on. So she also has a tendency to tell you, hey, I need you to be in the court tomorrow. Well, what time? Well, I'll send you the date tomorrow. I can't tell you that I'm going to be there because you gave me a day notice. You need to give me a week or two notice. So I have that date set and I don't have something else that comes up that I have to do.
I think communication is a big thing too, Spanny, and being respectful of
Well,
like people
yeah.
that are willing to give their
But
time.
I've been working with her. I've been working with her for 4 years and she should know this by now. So
Oh
I
my.
quit really working with her. And 1 second. Mayhem, get back. Hey, get back. Go lay down. Now. Sorry, my pit bull. Go lay down.
He's
I'm gonna put you in
thank you.
timeout.
Under the same
Oh my.
Thank you.
animals.
All right,
So,
sorry. He
in regards to Miss
but
Cook,
yeah,
Karen there, when you
Go
said,
I
ahead.
work with Karen.
oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead, Spanny. I'll answer Cook's thing in
Yeah.
a moment. I don't like
I
leaving
only work with
that
certain.
unanswered, 'cause
Yeah,
it's really grateful that they're here. You know, it's good.
yeah. Karen will be the first to tell you. I will work with some other advocates, but I'm very picky at who I work with
Yeah.
because we don't all see eye to eye, and we don't all stand for what's right. There's some advocates where it's my way or the highway, and you can just get off the stand. And then there's other advocates. Well, you don't have a degree, therefore nothing you say is credible.
That's immediately a
So
red flag. Get the hell out of Dodge.
yeah, I won't work with those people.
No.
It's just because I don't have a high school. Well, I have a high school diploma, but I don't have a college degree. Doesn't mean anything. I'm one of the best when it comes to termination of parent rights. Karen will tell you that. Tiffany will tell you that. I have
No,
advocates.
you
all
are
over
the best.
place that do it.
You are the best.
Well, see, I won't say I'm the best. I'll say I'm one of the best.
Well,
Because I
you
know
are
there's
the
somebody else out there. Yeah. But when I ask for donations, it's like, yes, I'll ask for donations sometimes because I'm like literally at the point where I'm probably going to be finding somewhere else to sleep soon because I'm getting ready to lose my house because I don't charge people. But then when you do ask for donations, they get all mad. And it's just like, I'm just asking for donations so I can save my house.
In fairness, we've been bled by lawyers for decades now. I've spent $112,000 on my case, and I went from seeing my daughter 4 days a month, paying $1,100-$1,200 at the child, maybe $1,000. I don't know. I'm focusing on that. To having her 50-50 and paying $80 a week, having her in extracurriculars that mom didn't want to participate in, so I got to pay for them on my own, taking care of everything, all before I moved 1,800 miles away, and then things kind of got crazy and CPS got involved. So so many people are raw. You know, they don't want to hear about it, but that's why it's like I do what I do because I'm like, look, I'm going to show up for you. Please show up for me, even if you're just a body in the background while I'm talking to a judge on a camera. And you know, in regards to what Karen stated about me being the journalist, when I'm in before the judge, I'm a litigant. And that's why we have to find more people because I can go as a reporter or a journalist, if you will. I don't like the word reporter. I can go as a journalist for them. I'm not party to the case. All right. Any journalist that comes, like George Saldano joins me in my case, in that moment, no conflict of interest. I'm a litigant. He's now the journalist. And that's why we gotta diversify and find a team for each of us in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities, in our states, and even across the country because we have technology like this available now.
Yeah, here in
Go ahead,
Alaska,
Spanny,
it's
because
really
I want
hard.
to elaborate on something that you said, but go ahead, finish.
Yeah. Here in Alaska, it's hard to find another advocate other than me that will work with another advocate because everybody here has a really big head. So they're like, you have to do it this way and this way. And I'm like, well, I don't. And I've gotten 203 kids back in 4 years. So
Don't look at me like that.
sorry, he's talking to something. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like everybody doesn't have to do this direct one-way thing. If I did that, I wouldn't have had the kids back that I do. It's just you have to trial and error it, especially in West Virginia, because let me tell you, one way ain't gonna work in West Virginia.
Well, there's a couple people that I know that are actually fighting some of the shenanigans going in West Virginia. So you're probably going to see West Virginia change. One of them is my favorite podcaster. He's spending a significant amount of money in the culture war. and he's actually working towards getting a couple of the legislators, members of the rep Senate, removed and putting in, you know, populists, constitutionalists, people who just focus on, you know, what's actually right. And I do tell people that keep pushing for that, because even as black-pilled as I may sound sometimes, I have hope, because, you know, I'm 48. When I was a kid, there was 2 anomalies in Congress. It was Ron Paul and it was Lieberman. Now you look at 2024, how many anomalies do we have in the House? We have Lauren Boebert, we have Matt Gaetz, we have Thomas Massie, we have Rand Paul, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene. The number of people, for the first time ever, we have 20 to 23 people in the House and the Senate who are actually pushing back. In the House, there's enough there. All those people, they're regular Joes. Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't a politician until she got sick of shit and ran for it. You know, we are taking back the battlefield, because I blame my generation. I blame Gen X. You know, 80s, 90s, we pushed through that glass ceiling. Women have equal pay. That whole rest of that shit's fantasy. You know, we don't care about gays and lesbians getting married. Suffer right along with us in family court. That's what I say. You know, we blew through all of those things. And Gen X got rid of racism, got rid of all of this shit. And then we went to sleep. And I can't remember who it was. They said it only takes a generation to move the freedoms. And now
I'm trying to put your hand in, all I see is blanket. Just come in. Sorry.
No, I'm naked.
Holly, is that you, Holly Sheldon?
Yeah. Tiff, what did you have to say?
Well, I want to go back to what Spanny was saying about people are saying, oh, she doesn't have these degrees and whatever. There's only one degree, in my opinion, and that's life experience.
Hard knocks.
Right? I mean, who better to be advocates if we haven't already done it? You know what I'm saying? Or we haven't already gone through it. And it doesn't matter if you had a degree or not, because CPS will tell you your degrees don't matter, which in return I tell them, then yours don't either. But anyway, and to be an advocate for real, in all honesty, it has to be a passion. Like he said, it's a passion. It's like a calling, right? You know, when you go through something and you don't want anybody else to have to go through the trauma, the disaster, the chaotic situations. So that's how I started advocating, honestly. But like I said, I had to stay in the background because I had kids at home and I was already called. I've had more fucking CPS cases than anybody I know. Okay? I've had them all. Doesn't matter. I've had them. Mongolian spots to my 12-year-old being at home by herself, a week away from 13. I mean, it didn't matter. Whatever it was, they were or calling me on my phone. No, you better not step foot on my property. You better not. That's all I'm saying. Don't do it.
Without a warrant in Texas, all I got to do is say you're trespassed. Leave. They don't. The cops will come and arrest them.
Let me tell you.
I had Hutto PD.
We got Castle Doctrine here.
Location.
Well,
Location can't be out.
Oh.
We got Castle Doctrine here in Alaska.
Well, let me tell you something. I had to take my body cam videos from the police department to my prosecutor. And if you go back and watch my very first videos that I did, I pulled all their body cam video and I uploaded it.
Are you on YouTube?
Yes. You're on my channel. I asked these people, do you have a warrant or a court order? They said no. And I was almost laughing. You can hear the demeanor in my throat change, right? So I'm trying not to laugh at this crazy ass bitch. And I said, you can't come in my house and they can't come in my house and they know it. Get off my property. They told me they weren't going anywhere. So you know what happened? I showed it to the prosecutor. He watched the first 10 minutes of it and said, I'm calling the sheriff's office. This is unacceptable.
At least your prosecutor did something. Mine told me to hire the guardian ad litem that was a conflict of interest and failed to take the victim in crime rights because he used to work for the United States Navy.
But see, that's what I tell people, right? Now, I met him when I worked at a company that we rented cars, trucks, and motorhomes, right? Well, people would steal my cars all the time. So I have to go get warrants for them.
But see,
And I
like,
can't get 'em.
but it ticks me off because when people do go to the constitutional sheriffs, when they go to the DAs in these small counties and these things, and you take the evidence and you say, here are my victim and crime rights, here's the evidence, and you have it where they're like, oh, we can't take it. Oh, we can't do that. Well, then what can you do? Because in like situations like mine, you want me to hire the guardian ad litem that dropped out of the previous case because he worked with my ex at the United States Navy, who also was my second whatever's husband, like attorney. So conflict of interest all around. But when you call it all out, I guess you can have contractors that used to work, you know, and being a guardian ad litem, or United States Army retired whatever attorneys. I guess you could have conflicts around. I mean, and I guess you can pay the judges everywhere and then try to prosecute false charges or false whatever when you have dead to right recordings from another county. Like I called you guys last night, I about fell out of my chair where it's all there. But you know what? I guess in my case, it's like I'm sitting here going, I guess it doesn't matter because you guys saw my case. I went to the Supreme Court. How can you have a conference without the litigant, private, deny all of it within 24 hours after, on record, the judge goes, well, I personally know the Supreme Court justice, and I don't believe you have a federal district case against me, so I'm going to call. So we're just going to block you all the way around and make you the bad guy. Because what? What are you covering? And then when you call actual like agencies that are required to assist, that's a joke. I just live here. Like that's my
Told you. Amber, they can't swallow that pill. That conviction pill will choke them. Okay? They can't swallow the pill. They can't. I guess they froze.
I'm still dumbfounded.
If the deputies in the courtrooms did their jobs correctly, because see, people, I don't even think the deputies know what they're doing. Anyway, a deputy in the courtroom, wait a minute. The sheriff's deputies in the courtrooms are there to make sure these judges are protecting our constitutional rights. Do you know they have the authority to arrest the judge and they don't even do it?
Listen, I've got the best one in the book. Okay. POAs. You go and you file them in the clerk, right? You're not allowed to be POA. You go and retract your POA, but somehow your POA is still being used, right? So you go and you ask the clerk, the Register of Deeds, if these POAs are on file. And in June of 2023, they have the recording that all the POAs file. But you go back in August, but magically the POAs were removed from the system, from the book of records, and they can't explain it. And so you're sitting there, or you have the clerk of court from the other side of court openly state on recording, they're just going to end up in jail anyways because they didn't realize what they did, but you have it, but they're in the court advocating and they know all of these crimes, but yet they won't do anything.
Which is another thing that shows their mentality. They're clearly in a criminal mindset, some of these judges, and because you look at criminal court has the ability to have 200 discretionary items, where family court has 3,000. So they can easily look at some of these things and be like, guys, she made a mistake, knock it off. We're not going to prosecute this. She's a regular Joe. She tried her best. There's 60 different examples of case law where judges and reporters and clerks are supposed to assist pro se litigants. It's not giving legal advice for them to assist you with logistics or to correct your ignorance of the law. If you screw something up, they should have the discretion, the honor, the integrity, the moral compass to say, look, that's wrong. I'm going to explain to you why. You want to stand by that statement, or do you want a moment to amend what it is that we're discussing?
But most of them, and especially the smaller states or the smaller courts, they won't even give you the proper paperwork. When you take in the proper paperwork that you take from their state to them, they don't even recognize their own forms. That's a
Well, I
problem.
got one.
Right?
I got one better. I got one better. If you have a CPS case, the only way to get it unsealed is to go to circuit court. So I called circuit court. They said, well, we don't have a form for you to get a CPS case unsealed. You got to go to juvenile court. I said, okay. So just for kicks and giggles, I called juvenile court. They said, we don't have a form like that. You have to go to circuit court. I said, well, you two need to get your shit together because apparently neither one of you, circuit nor juvenile, know what your jobs are or what petitions and motions I'm supposed to be filing. And I hung up.
Well, no, because in some states, all of the courts are all in the same building and they don't even have, like, for example, North Carolina is required to have a family court, okay? They don't even have their district and circuit, like, separated technically, and they're like, it's not correct. So you could go in for a court hearing on Friday. You're hearing criminal charges, CPS cases, family divorces. Like, it's like trash day. And you're like, are we doing this?
Oh, and then I went to juvenile and domestic court and said, I need to pull this child support order, right? This is what they said to me. And this, I almost fell on the floor. Now I know the clerk. She said, Tiffany, we don't have child support orders here. They don't stay here. And I said, well, all court orders are supposed to stay in the court. So what you're telling me is if the court here doesn't have it, it's not an order. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Yeah, we just need to write like a book of all the make it make sense. Make this make sense. That's what they need to teach. If they want to have like quote unquote attorneys, make it make sense. Like have real life shit go on.
That would be one hell of a YouTube channel.
Make it make sense.
Yes. and its parent channel could be Stuck on Stupid.
Annie Elise actually already says that a lot. Annie Elise is actually a YouTuber. She does true crime all the time, and she says that all the time. Make it make sense.
Yeah. Because if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. I mean, I feel like sometimes I live in Wrigley's Believe It or Not world with some of this shit that I be hearing. No bullshit. I mean, I've heard cases that just said, what? That doesn't even make sense. Make it make sense to me so I can understand.
That's another part of the economy that Holly's talking about is the therapeutic economy. There are a lot of these therapists, air quotes for those who are listening, that are part of the problem. They need to keep their revenue up. I have a recording of my evaluator in the hallway admitting to me that he violated HIPAA and coordinated with opposing counsel. And that nullifies his whole report. And in addition to 9 months of therapy with somebody who said, nah, it's a nothing burger, he's full of shit. So they're a problem too. We have one here in Texas that we're investigating right now who has taken $50,000 family and has, it seems, and again, I'm not making any legal statements or nor do I have any prejudices. I'm trying to remain unbiased, but the evidence seems like this individual is keeping these families fighting because she's now collected $50,000 when even one of the most expensive evaluations you can get is somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500. That's insane. So this is another person who's just a part of the problem. It's CPS, family court judges. It's the friggin' officers. If an officer, again, commits, breaks the law, and he doesn't have any excuse. It's like working for the police force, right? And your police chief saying, you know what, we're gonna go, and the officer being like, well, it's an order. Okay, let's do it. What? No, any normal officer of the law would be like, fuck you. That's it. Full stop, mic drop.
And at that, we're going to have to go, guys, because my internet's about to run out.
Okay, yeah, and I got another meeting I got to be in a few hours. But we're going to do this again. Go ahead.
I did try to type it in my website, but it was restricted and it wouldn't allow it to go through. If you guys want to see how I published it, it's rescuebex.com. rescuebex.com. And if you guys want to follow me, the only social media I'm maintaining right now is on Twitter /X, Twix, whatever you want to call it. And I'm Courtroom Cracker on there with no E.
Amber, send me that in a text message.
I will.
And tell everybody again, we're going to be on Wednesday, 2 p.m. Tune in. Dave, you're more than welcome to come too.
All right, I'll try. I got to
And-
see who I'm balancing right now because I have a friend coming in from Rhode Island that I haven't seen in 3 years. It's my birthday week. But I also have several people who on Friday I'm going with one complainant. They're refusing to take her criminal complaint. So I'm showing up with her in an official capacity as a journalist so that they will take her criminal complaint because they're just flat out refusing it, which is also against the law here in Texas. It's ridiculous.
Go ahead,
All right,
Spanny.
and one last closing thing. Amber is not with Tanawa. Amber is not driving with Tanawa. We do not know where Tanawa is. We don't know what's going on there. So if you guys have any questions for Tanawa, try emailing him.
Yeah, my last conversation with him was the last conversation he had with anybody down here. He's still pursuing what it is that he's pursuing. And I believe what he's doing is the tort reform we've been looking for 40 years. But his fight is at the top. You know, most of us down here, like me, people need help right now. We can't wait 3 to 7 years for some kind of reform. Whereas if, a couple good advocates are available, then you can make a difference in somebody's life right away. You can save a kid years of trauma. You can save a family from being ripped apart. I firmly believe that, if parents stopped going through family court for divorces, they would actually all get along. I watched 2 millennials do that up in Rhode Island. They fought with the judge. They typed up their own motion. They typed up their own orders. The judge would not finalize their divorce because they refused to go into child support. And we've got to realize these Gen Z millennials, they are all the kids that are now on our side because they grew up in these families that were destroyed by family court and CPS. They have made not just 10 to 12 million other enemies, but now they've made an enemy of an entire generation. There's 33 million Gen Zers who will not go anywhere near family court. And unfortunately, that is negatively impacting the population. My wife is a therapist, and right now, 30% of men 30 and under are still virgins, and they refuse to engage in any relationship with women because of what's happened. They're terrified of family court and what it will do with them, and that there is no protection for anybody. And that's true vice versa for women as well, because half the fathers' rights movement is also women who are going through the same crap.
We appreciate you guys.
Peace. Actually stands
Have
for
a good
victory.
night, guys.
Good
And
night.
one more thing, share the